Welcome to Camp 17. We are...
My armpits are sweaty.
My armpits are so
really
sweaty. I don't normally sweat my armpits. But really what we want to help you do is manage your safety. When we feel safe, we'll connect with people. My nostrils aren't as big as yours.
Your fight looks different. Your struggle is going to look different. It is not going to look the same as everyone else.
You're my best friend. You're my best friend. So when I was a little girl, when I would get to see my dad, he would take me shopping. And every time that he would take me shopping, he would buy me some clothes, but there was always a pair of shoes in the visit. And I can remember being so excited to wear my shoes. So excited to wear my shoes. I would pick out my outfit for the next day. I would leave the shoes and the outfit next to my bed, and I remember just not being able to sleep that night. I couldn't sleep because I was so excited to wear my shoes. And then as an adult, I grew up and I bought a lot of shoes. And I remember this season of my life where I was getting ready to leave to go on a trip, and I knew I could only really keep 2 pairs of my shoes because I was moving to Hawaii for 6 months and I couldn't take everything with me. And what I began to realize is in some of the darkest of times of my life and in the places where I was so sad, I would find myself buying shoes. Because as a little girl, when I got shoes, my dad was there and my dad bought me a pair of shoes, and I wouldn't see him very often as a kid. And so my longing to be loved equated to putting my feet in a pair of shoes. So when I'd slide my feet in a new pair of shoes, I felt loved. Now, did I really feel loved? No, they're a pair of shoes. But my experience as a child followed me into adulthood, and so when I was sad, I'd buy shoes. I remember a season of my life where I was in the darkest of the darkest of the darkest places I have ever been, and I bought 4 pairs of shoes in one day. All at the same store. I just bought 4. I didn't need any. But I can look back now and I can say my heart was hurting. My heart needed love. I needed to know that I was loved, that I was worth fighting for, that I was worth sticking around for. And when I didn't get that, I would buy shoes. And so now when I buy shoes, I am so aware, and I ask myself questions like, is your heart good before you buy these? Like, are you buying these for a certain reason? And then I get to be like, no, they're just cute. Or I can say, ooh, yeah, okay, maybe there's a little something going on in here that I might need to deal with, and shoes are actually not gonna fix it. And so for all of us, as we have been talking about the cycle and the ways in which we numb our pain, the ways that we cope, the ways that we have the things we're actually addicted to, if we start to realize what those are, we can find our way out of a cycle. We can find our way out of a vicious cycle of behavior that is manifesting in our lives and keeping us from actually feeling. So instead of me feeling what was going on inside of my heart, I would buy shoes because then I didn't have to feel it. But I was completely unaware of it. I had no idea until one moment. And in that moment, I realized that. But I had to become aware of it. I had to see it, I had to know it, and then go, ooh, I need to deal with this. But we don't like to do that. We don't want to feel sadness. We don't want to feel pain. We don't want to feel the stuff that doesn't feel awesome. But it's good for us to feel. Because if we don't get it out, then it just stays inside of us. and it kills us. And so I hope along this journey that you have been able to find yourself where you feel like you need to be perfect, where you feel like you have to have it all together, where you're saying, I know, and the places in which you're afraid to make mistakes, the places of your life that are so filled with shame and humiliation, and out of those places the overflow that is how we try not to feel. So I hope you come out of this journey feeling. But in order to get out of this, we have to take a journey. But this journey must be a journey of grace and self-kindness. For some of you, it might be a really long journey. Some of you, it's a short journey, but there's going to be a whole bunch of journeys. Some of you, it's a journey on a really long road that looks never ending. For some of you, it has a lot of twists and turns, and it's windy and kind of makes your stomach not feel very good, and you need some Dramamine. But it's a journey, and it's a journey for all of us. Having grace and self-kindness for you, but also having grace and kindness for others in the midst of their journey, because we're all in a cycle. We're all struggling in some way. But if we can see that and help one another feel safe and be kind and gracious, but also truthful, because sometimes we just need to say, hey, knock it off. Stop it. Stop it right now. We need people like that in our lives that'll tell us the truth. Some of the most important people in my life have said to me some of the hardest truths that I have ever heard, but I've become better for it. I might have fought in the beginning like, you are not right, that is not true. And then you're like, it's totally true, you're so right. Thank you for loving me enough to tell me the truth. I feel like there's 5 keys to being able to find ourselves on the other side of this cycle. And I like to call this the 180. And so there's 5 things that I feel like are the roadmap to just continuously like check in with our lives and check in with our cycles. And if we find ourselves like, oh my gosh, the same thing's happening over and over, I gotta get out. I gotta get out. And getting out looks like a life that is filled with excellence instead of perfection. It looks like a life of humility where I know who I am and I am okay with you being you. You being the best version of you does not threaten my value. It's empathy. It's being able to understand people and have understanding for ourselves and being able to connect with people. But then also being women of balance and of self-control. And so when we find those things, we can find ourselves in this beautiful place of a life being lived fully alive. But it's going to take a few things. And the first is faith and hope. Faith and hope are things that are so hard for us because we want to see everything. We want to know everything. That's why we don't take risks. It's because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't step out because we're unsure of the outcome. And so we just don't take risks. But faith and hope involve believing in something right now that you cannot see. Just sit on that for a second. You can live your life fully alive. And you can have hope in that. And you can believe that even if you don't see it right now. You have it in you. You absolutely do. But you have to hang on to the things that you cannot see right now. You might not even know the vastness of the dreams that are inside of you, but you can hang on to the hope that they're in there and that you will find them. And hope doesn't disappoint. It just doesn't. But the thing about hope is that we can only find it if we choose to struggle. My ability and my willingness to struggle teaches me perseverance. It teaches me endurance. It teaches me steadfastness. And some of the earliest definitions of the word struggle or suffering is to be crushed by a weight. Like, that's a struggle, to be like held, like I'm holding on to something and I gotta stay standing. For some of you, it might be in your marriage. You're struggling in your marriage. It might be your children. It might be your health. It might just even be your wellness journey, that it's hard, that you're not losing the weight that you want to lose, that your battle with sugar just seems like it will never, ever end. That your parents are sick and you have to take care of them and you're just not really sure how you're going to do it, and you're tired and you're weary. Those are real life struggles. But the struggle will always make you strong. If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. But we don't like to struggle. We don't. We want to get out before it ever gets too hard. But if you never ever stick out the struggle, I can promise you that you will never learn true perseverance. You will never learn true endurance. You will never learn true consistency and steadfastness. And you will end up doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, just like you always have. The same things are going to continue to follow you and follow you and follow you until you say, you know what, I'm going to struggle until I break through this thing. I'm going to stick with it until I break through this thing. But you don't get to decide when that is done, right? It's going to take as long as it takes. But when I learn perseverance, something happens in my character, it happens in my person, and I learn something about myself. My character is tested and approved. Something happens inside of me, and that place of my character being tested, I persevered, I endured through the struggle. You end up on the other side. Please tell me that making it through a struggle and finding the other side left you feeling hopeful that you might be able to do other things. You have made it through workout after workout after workout. You struggled. Sometimes you may have quit and you stopped when the struggle really started, and that's okay. But you will find hope when you decide to struggle. But if you do not choose to struggle, I would like to propose that hopelessness is a part of your story because you are unwilling to struggle. What if you decided to struggle? What would happen in your life? You won't die. You will not die. You will make it through. You will. I believe that you will. And it might be hard, and there might be a lot of tears, and it might hurt, and there might be so much pain, but you will learn something. You will grow. It will always be unto something if you are willing, even though you don't see it right now. So learning to struggle in a safe place like Camp 17 will breed, grow, cultivate hope in your life. And this is something that you can do in every area of your life. And then awareness. The more that we are aware of why we're doing what we're doing or what we're doing in certain situations, it's like looking through a glass that's so dirty, and we start to wipe the dirt off and go, oh my gosh, I can see this. I didn't even know that about myself. Oh my gosh, I do the same thing every time I feel defeated. I run to food every time I feel lonely. I didn't even know that. But it's stopping, allowing ourselves to feel, looking inside of ourselves, taking a look at ourselves in the mirror and saying, who are you? I want to know you. When I was 29 years old, I can't tell you what really happened to me because I still sometimes don't know, but I knew that there was a woman inside of me and she was dying to get out. I didn't know what she looked like. I didn't know what she sounded like. It scared me. It scared me to death because I bet she would be like fun and sassy and silly and goofy. But I didn't know, because I had lost so many parts of who I was, because I was scared and I was doing whatever I could to put up every defense mechanism to stay safe. But then that safety was just, it was crumbling my life, and I was sad and I was lonely and I was afraid. And I just felt like I was like shriveling up inside. I felt really hopeless. Like, if my life doesn't change, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, man, I got to figure this out. And the more and more that I became aware of what I was doing, the more and more clarity I got. It was like every time I realized why I did what I did, I took some more Windex to the window. And I took some more, and I took some more, and I started to see things. But sometimes we don't want to see them. Like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. But we don't want to look at it because then we have to look at ourselves and be like, whoa, wow. Okay, sometimes it's really humbling, right? Sometimes humility comes with just learning things about ourselves that we don't really want to know about ourselves. But then we can say, you know what? I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to go do some things that I'm afraid of. I'm going to risk, I'm going to deal with some of my stuff. I'm going to be courageous, and I'm going to tell somebody parts of my story that I've never told anybody before. I'm going to be vulnerable. My journey started with vulnerability. 8 years ago, the word vulnerability, before it was everywhere, I felt so challenged in my heart to be vulnerable. And I was like, whoa, no, that is scary. That is so scary. Courage is doing something that we're afraid to do. Bravery is doing something that we're not afraid to do. But courage involves fear. Courage says, you know what, I'm scared, but I'm gonna do this anyways. What's the opposite of courage? It's discourage. So again, I would like to propose to you, if you feel discouraged and hopeless, are you struggling, and are you doing anything that scares you? Because I can tell you, if you start taking risks and you start stepping in to scary places and taking chances and risking falling down, you will learn to get back up. And then what ends up happening is we become women of meekness. And if I look in the Webster's dictionary, I don't want to be meek. But if I go back again and I look at, I think it's the Greek word, like way back in the day. And it meant bridled strength. It still means bridled strength, but that's not what the dictionary says. The dictionary right now says meekness is like you're a mouse, you're quiet, and you're kind of a doormat. Who wants to be meek? But I want to be a woman of bridled strength. I want to be a woman who is powerful and under control. I want to be a woman who is fierce and gentle. I want to be a woman who is strong and sweet. I want to be a woman who is powerful and nurturing. That's what meekness is. And so what if we were women of meekness, who were raising daughters and sons of meekness, who were letting our meekness get on our friends, on our spouses, on our coworkers. And then the next generation started to realize that they could do conflict, that they could be wrong, that they could see things differently, that we could engage in conversations, that we could be powerful and loving at the same time. We do not have to give up parts of ourselves. But I call this the 180 because it really is the reconciliation of self. It was the moment where I realized that as a woman, I am fire and I am love. I am fierce and I'm nurturing. I am powerful and I'm loving. And that's okay. I get to be both, and I don't have to pick it. I don't have to pick a side. And it's so freeing because that's when we begin to fully come alive. So I want to challenge you. Like, do you want to be a woman of meekness? And if you are, and if you do, are you ready